I'm not accustomed to speaking to audiences with this kind of makeup. My comfort zone is usually talking about how to clean up contaminated sediments from urban bays and waterways, or telling people how to get a project through the regulatory permitting process for large marine developments. Speaking to such an esteemed audience full of wonderful medical professionals and dedicated members of the Transversemyelitis Association is just not something that I envisioned or planned for when I chose my professional career path. But yet, here I am. And the fact that I am here is the result of a multitude of circumstances. It's a chain of events mostly out of my control. In a way, that sort of epitomizes what happens when a person becomes a caregiver. It's the result of a chain of events mostly out of one's control. Now, realistically, we all envision becoming a caregiver at some point in time when we plan to have children and when we realize that someday we will be taking care of an aging relative, whether it be a parent or a spouse. Generally, we understand the job going into it, and we also know that the job will change over time as the family member grows older. Think about some of those changes. Children become teenagers. The job changes, and boy, does it ever. Parents get older and need assistance and then more active care. The job changes again. When a spouse ages, the needs and relationships change as well. Now, I don't want to offend anybody by saying that by calling marriage a job, but I've heard that you have to work at a marriage, so if it's work, well then the job changes as well. Now, we understand that this kind of family care requires love, tenderness, nurturing, providing assistance, learning various caregiving basics, and later on some tricks of the trade, all leading to that day when nature takes its course and children move on and parents and loved ones pass on. It's part of a cycle. It's part of nature. While these aspects of life certainly entail many chains of events, it's not necessarily the chain of events that leads to becoming a caregiver for someone with a chronic illness or disability. It's not the chain that starts with an unexpected or catastrophic event. It is not the chain that begins with the diagnosis of transverse myelitis. That chain seems to start at about the same point for everyone. How many people here remember your first words back to the doctor when they gave you the diagnosis? Transverse what? Remember those words? Transverse what? And then the doctor repeated, transverse myelitis. Now, I guess in hindsight, we were pretty lucky because it really doesn't take that long to learn how to say myelitis. And it doesn't take long to learn how to spell it. All you have to remember is the E goes after the Y. I mean, think of all the other rare conditions, like the one that Sandy said earlier, all the conditions that are out there that are nearly next to impossible to say or spell. Yeah, I think we're pretty lucky. On top of that, we've reduced transverse myelitis to simply TM. What could be simpler than that? Now, I must tell you that even this has been known to create some problems for people. I was once talking to a coworker about some aspects of transverse myelitis, and I was saying transverse myelitis, and then I switched on him and used TM a few times. Well, he got this puzzled look on his face, and then he interrupted me and said, I don't get it. What's transcendental meditation got to do with it? Now that caused me to think, how grand, what other acronym could stand for such a devastating neurological condition and also conjure up such feelings of inner peace and contentment? So, there you have it. A family member or loved one has been diagnosed with transverse myelitis, and now you're a caregiver. Now your journey begins. Your journey will more than likely take you through the 3 basic stages of transverse myelitis, each of which requires knowledgeable care and response. The 3 stages are TM onset, which includes diagnosis and the initial response actions, the TM recovery and rehabilitation period, and this is the time for partial or full recovery and usually extends a period of about 2 years from onset, or the TM long-term living and care period. All of these stages, like any spinal cord injury or dysfunction, require specialized attention as they each will bring new issues and concerns. As a caregiver, you will be smack dab in the middle of it all. There are many resources available for all kinds of caregivers, and there are many kinds of educational materials available that help one better understand the challenges faced during the caregiver's journey. Like so many topics in the medical field, the available literature is vast and has all kinds of approaches and analysis to help characterize and better understand caregiving. As I did a literature review of published studies and papers and reviewed information from various websites and groups focused on the art and craft of caregiving, I was really quite amazed at how much is available. Resources are plentiful, and with the internet and even a phone book, they can be easily found. I've included some information in a symposium packet, and I hope many of you will find helpful. Most of it is provided as an informational resource for your later use, but I will be specifically addressing some of these materials a bit later. When I try to convey the caregiving experience or journey, I like to talk about the what's, whys, wheres, and sometimes even the hows of caregiving. There is the initial set of these questions that occur during TM onset stage. Such questions as, what is it? Why me? Why now? What now? What will happen to my life, to my loved one's life? Where do I go from here? Where do I go for help? How will this affect my family? How can I handle this? After some time and experience, and perhaps during the recovery and rehab period, there is a later set of these questions. Why haven't things gotten better? Why don't I see more improvement? What can I do better? What additional resources are there, and how do I access them? How do I provide the necessary care and keep an income? Where will my family be in the future? And later on, during the long-term living and care stage, you might even find yourself engaged in this set of questions. How can it be that life sometimes feels normal? How did we make it through? What new challenges await? What can I do to take better care of myself? And eventually, you might even find yourself in the position of asking, how can I help others? And then, through all of this, one of the most universal discoveries happens. And you go, wow, what wonderful people I have met. When I asked my daughter what she thought about this approach of using these questions to help convey some aspects of the TM journey, she said it was too much to follow. So I asked her what she would say to characterize TM and the journey. And even though she doesn't remember the beginning of the journey because she was only 18 months old at onset, and since she hardly acknowledges its presence today for a variety of reasons, I was surprised when she answered and said, it was like starting with Mr. Yuck and trying to get to a big happy face, but never getting all the way there. So she and I prepared this next graphic as a representation of the journey. The wavy arrow depicts the highs and the lows of the journey that we all know so well. Another good tale of the journey is a poem I included in your packet called Welcome to Holland, and I recommend that you take time to read it. It really is a good descriptor of that journey. The thing I remember the most after my daughter's diagnosis, following the 15 minutes of disbelief and quick assimilation of the many whats and whys, was the immediate response of, okay, now what do we do? And this really has been the continuing question. At first, it's answered by doctors, and then perhaps through a support group or network. As you gain experience as a caregiver, you start answering many of the questions yourself. Then you work to find and put together the best team of medical providers you can to meet the needs of the patient and your overall caregiving needs. There are many challenges faced during your journey through the progression from a diagnosis of transverse myelitis to an established, viable, long-term care and treatment program. It is also quite a journey to get to the point where you can ensure that you are providing proper care for the caregiver. Now, I want to focus on 4 phases of the progression that occurs during a caregiver's adjustment to a family member's TM diagnosis. This also applies to the individual with TM and other family members. From my perspective, all are part of an effective caregiving program. The 4 phases are adapt, accommodate, advocate, and accept. Let me discuss each. Adapt. Everything seems different now because it is different. A new dimension has been added to existing relationships and ways of interacting. We must adapt to the new realities and the changes that will occur over time. Accommodate. We can't do things in the same way as before. We must find ways to accommodate the needs of the patient, ourselves, and other family members. Some of these accommodations pertain to the way we think and approach things. Others pertain to the physical world, like needing to seek special accommodations in the workplace and redesigning one's home to eliminate barriers. To bring change, to ease the ongoing trauma, to implement accommodations, to make people hear, to better our conditions and the outlook for the future, we must advocate. To our schools, our employers, our government, and yes, even to our medical treatment teams, we must advocate. The need to advocate never seems to diminish once you reach that stage, but it does lead to dramatic benefits and empowers all of us to work towards betterment, whether it's self-improvement or increased awareness and improved care within the medical profession, whether it leads to better support for those with TM or to cure research. Advocacy is of the utmost importance. And as a parent of a child with transverse myelitis, it is so important to me that I teach my loved one to learn how to self-advocate, to be able to speak out in life situations and retain control of her physical and emotional well-being. Somewhere along the journey, you will accept what has transpired, what and who your loved one is now, what and who you are now. You still won't like it, and you will still want it to go away. But I believe there's some sort of peace, I suppose, with acceptance. For one, I believe it does enable you to be a better caregiver and focus on the accommodating and advocacy aspects of things. For another, it may help you provide better care for yourself, reducing stressors and accepting the fact that you too need time off for respite care. With regards to advocacy, there is another why question that I think all of us get to that I didn't mention earlier, and that is, sooner or later, I believe most of us find ourselves asking, why isn't my government doing more to support spinal cord research? I think most of you will agree that cure research is an important component of the answers we seek and the future goals we all strive for. We must advocate for active governmental participation in and support of research. I hope everyone goes away from this symposium with the passion and the drive to speak out and demand cure research support, to advocate, to find ways to advocate. Now, I must share with you a story about an opportunity I had in 1996 to do a little face-to-face advocacy. During the 1996 presidential re-election campaign, Clinton and Gore came to Tacoma, my hometown. Since one of their themes was environmental cleanups, and since Tacoma has a very large Superfund site, part of which had been cleaned up by one of my projects, the campaign managers had decided to invite staff from the Environmental Protection Agency and the Port of Tacoma, where I work, to view the rally from a position next to the stage. The plan was that we would all be in a place where the president would start the handshaking routine after the speeches. Well, I thought about what to do. Should I get close enough to say something to him or even shake his hand? And it didn't take me long to come up with an answer to that question. So when he came along our way, I forced my way to the front, shoved out my hand, made contact, and while shaking his hand, I yelled, "Mr. President, Support spinal cord research. There, I had delivered my message. I had advocated to the top. Mission accomplished, I thought. But I wasn't prepared for what happened next. He had just about been ready to move on to another hand when I finished my words, but when I finished, instead of moving on, he shook my hand a bit longer and started to tell me, and looked me in the eye, and started to tell me all the things that he was doing for support for spinal cord research. He talked about his passion for it and the funds that were coming in that direction. As he spoke, he sort of switched from shaking my hand to holding it a little bit, kind of like he knew. Then he moved on, shook a few more hands down the way, and then to my amazement, he stopped and turned back to me and made contact and started telling me even more about what his beliefs and feelings were and how much excitement he had over the progress in cure research. Now, I'm sure I looked as dumbfounded as I felt because I had come prepared to deliver my message, to speak my words, but not to talk. All I could do was muster up a thank you, we need your help. So it's not every day that we can be heard by a president, but every day we must take advantage of opportunities to advocate, to make opportunities to advocate. These opportunities come in all shapes and sizes. Should I mention people who park in disabled parking stalls? Now there's a great opportunity for advocacy. Now I want to take a little time and focus on various stressors for caregivers. To lead into this, I'd like to start with some facts about caregivers. Now these came from the Family Care of America website, and there are some other additional facts that are in your packet that are from other resources. There are over 27 million family caregivers in the United States. Clearly, we are not alone. About 58% of America's adult population either are or expect to be family caregivers. Clearly, we will never be alone. And the one that really sort of shocked me is that on average, caregivers lose more than $650,000 during their lifetimes due to lost wages, lost contributions to benefit programs, and foregone promotions. Sort of quantifies the term love hurts for your caregivers, doesn't it? Caregivers suffer not only professionally, but they suffer personally. Feelings of isolation, stress, burnout, and depression are found in half of all caregivers. And the caregiver's own health often is at risk. Some might even experience what is known as chronic sorrow, which can be quite debilitating in its own right. Those who are able to work a full day often suffer from what's called presenteeism. They're at work, but the pressures and demands of their caregiving situations decrease their productivity dramatically. Caregivers also face huge quality of life issues because they have to deal with long-term commitments and issues that include major life decisions, financial demands, loss of leisure time, and their own health concerns. With careful planning, good self-care, and a knowledge of available help, your job will be easier. You will be a better caregiver, and you will be able to help make it possible for your family to maintain itself and function well. Also, by providing care in a way that helps your loved one to do as much for themselves as possible, to learn and gain independence, will help them to develop into who they want to be. So, how do we counter stress? Well, you could join a support group, say like the Transversemyelitis Association, or come to a TM Symposium. Work to develop local supports. There's a lot to be gained from just spending time with people who have faced some of the same challenges and have overcome the same kinds of obstacles. This sense of community can reduce or prevent the feelings of isolation. Also, as I stated before, the number of groups or resources aimed at caregivers is large and growing and is very accessible. It's important to stay in regular contact with friends, to have visitors, and to make visits. Take the extra time and make the extra effort to cultivate new relationships, but don't let the old ones slip away. Take advantage of respite care. Set aside time to go out and just be yourself. You need to take care of your own life. The last point is particularly significant for caregivers of individuals with a spinal cord injury or dysfunction. As they deal with the long-term ramifications of their loved one's condition, these caregivers often lose sight of their own needs. Friends and family members can even unintentionally contribute to this, as their attention may be focused only on the person with the chronic illness or disability. Admit that you have a right to your own feelings and find ways to be more than the person providing care. Now, in your packet is a list of 10 tips for caregivers, and these are significant enough that I thought I would run over them here during this presentation. Choose to take charge of your life, and don't let your loved one's illness or disability always take center stage. Remember to be good to yourself. Love, honor, and value yourself. You're doing a very hard job, and you deserve some quality time just for you. Watch out for signs of depression, and don't delay in getting professional help when you need it. When people offer to help, accept the offer and suggest specific things that they can do for you. And educate yourself about your loved one's condition. As we know, information is empowering. And there's a difference between caring and doing. Be open to technologies that promote your loved one's independence. Trust your instincts. Most of the time, they will lead you in the right direction. Grieve for your losses, and then allow yourself to dream new dreams. Stand up for your rights as a caregiver and as a citizen. And seek support from other caregivers. As you'll have heard before, and you'll hear time and time again, there is strength in knowing that you are not alone. Now, to me, perhaps, the most important role of the caregiver is that of developer and manager of the treatment team. In essence, everyone is a caregiver, whether you're a neurologist, a urologist, a physiatrist, or any one of these medical professions. Everyone has to be part of the treatment team, working with the patient and caregiver to maximize independence and to maximize function. I believe that patients and caregivers need to be informed and empowered so they can manage their needs and to be an active participant in their care and the treatment team decisions so as to ensure the best possible outcomes. The interrelationships and interdependence between the caregiver, the patient, and the treatment team is really paramount to ensuring the best possible outcomes are reached. All of these must gel together. They must become partners, collaborators in caregiving. We need each other. When I'm contacted by someone seeking questions about doctors and what's next, I usually tell them that they need to develop a treatment team they feel good about. And then they need to manage their treatment team in a way that they feel meets their needs and is responsive to their changing conditions and needs, as they will change over time. If a person can get a treatment team together that meets their needs and that they feel good about, then perhaps they can end up in a pretty good situation in the long haul. But boy, be ready for surprises as part of that process. Far too many TM patients contact our organization with disheartening tales of misdiagnosis, months until a diagnosis, lack of information about the condition from their providers upon diagnosis, no or limited recommendations for rehabilitation, whether it be physical or occupational or some other kind of therapy that is needed, lack of compassion regarding pain issues, and even expressed belief from medical providers that the symptoms experienced are all in the patient's head. More often than not, a person with TM is being cared for by a provider that has not seen a TM case before, or as our doctor told us, well, only one a really long time ago. TM patient experience seems to indicate that many providers, perhaps since they do not have many cases, do not have the time or motivation to pursue knowledge on the condition or to develop an aggressive treatment team for the patient's best care. That's why it is ultimately your responsibility, the caregiver, the patient. I know that there are a lot of limitations to being in good control, like insurance limitations and income limitations. But you have to do the best you can to manage your team, to pull it together, and to seek out the best providers you can get. Now, I want to give you a caregiver's perspective on this, the Second International Transversemyelitis Symposium. There are two components to this perspective. the TM patient and their families and caregivers, and the medical professionals. As we see here today, this symposium is an opportunity to gather together people with TM and their families to exchange ideas, network, and develop further supports, to share with coping mechanisms and resources in order to maximize independence and function, to hear from professionals regarding new and best practices, to share information about accommodations and adaptive equipment, and to learn more about relevant research that is underway and the prognosis for viable cures. For medical professionals, the symposium offers a focused setting to provide enhanced educational opportunities about the condition of TM and about the people who have TM, their families, and their caregivers. It is an opportunity to learn more about the progression of the stages of transverse myelitis and treatments for the various maladies that accompany the diagnosis and the various needs and issues of TM patients. For some providers, this event will put a face on the condition of TM. The ever-increasing numbers of TM patients clearly speaks to the need for providing more education, information, support, and partnerships amongst providers, patients, and caregivers. This event helps meet those needs by focusing on the many critical and pertinent topics that are part of the TM experience. So the final perspective I wish to share with you is on the magnitude and the importance of this symposium. As a co-founder of the Transversemyelitis Association, TMA believes that this symposium is of national and international significance because this is only the second major event that has been specifically planned to focus on the needs of TM patients and their families and caregivers and the needs of providers who provide treatment of TM. This symposium will impact all of us in a very positive way, not only today through Sunday, but well into the future. To be part of this is very rewarding for myself and quite humbling. This community that we all share a part of is very strong, sensitive, and supportive. This symposium will prove to be a magical experience for many as it brings us closer together as a family. As you look at the rest of the program, this symposium is rich with expertise, and I can't wait to take it all in. But before I exit, I too would like to take a moment and personally thank Johns Hopkins and Dr. Kerr and all the sponsors listed in the program. I would like to extend a special thank you to the Cody Unser First Step Foundation. Thank you so much for your support and work in increasing TM awareness. I would also like to thank the Transverse Myelitis Association Medical Advisory Board, Dr. Bowen, Dr. Lynn, Dr. Levy, and Dr. Kerr again. Thank you, board members, for your participation and devotion. And thank you, presenters and participants. Your involvement and participation makes this a success. And I want to thank the many members of the Transverse Myelitis Association that are at home here in the United States as well as around the world who have worked so hard to increase TM awareness and to build local supports. I believe that every positive thing that everyone does helps all of us, no matter where we live, no matter where we call home. Thank you.
This is going to be a quick run through. You're going to hear in